The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Excuse me. Alderman Oldenburg. Thank you.
Here.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sine. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Here. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Boyd. 9 present, you have quorum.
A quorum being
Alderman
present.
Cone is present.
So noted.
A quorum being present, we will be led in opening reflection and prayer by an internationally acclaimed story performer, a 3-time Emmy Award winner, Circle of Excellence recipient, and multiple Parents' Choice Gold and Silver Award winner, and a St. Louis native, Dr. Bobby Norfolk.
Thank you. It is indeed a privilege and a pleasure to be here. And what I bring you this morning is a trilogy from my repertoire. You always can tell what your thoughts will do in bringing you hate or love, because thoughts are things, and their airy wings are swift as a carrier dove. They follow the law of the universe, that everything recreates its kind, and they speed over the track to bring you back whatever went out from your mind. 6 humans trapped by happenstance in bleak and bitter cold, all possess a stick of wood, or so the story is told. Their dying fire in need of logs, the first man held his back, but of the faces around the fire, he noticed one was black. The next man sitting across the way saw one out of his church. He can bring himself to give his stick of birch. The next man sat in tattered clothes and gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use to warm the idle rich? The rich man sat back and thought of the wealth that he had in store, how to keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. The black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from his sight, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. The last of this forlorn group did not accept for gain. Giving only to those who gave was how he played the game. Their logs held tight in death's steel hands was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. Last of the trilogy, in the African American tradition, I need some call and response from you older people. Okay, you all ready for this? Okay, all right. Strap your seatbelts on. It's going to be a bumpy ride. People think rap music, hip hop started in the 1980s with Run DMC, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Curtis Blow, the Sugar Hill Gang, Queen Latifah, Kid and Play, KRS-One, Public Enemy, Ice-T, Ice Cube, Vanilla Ice. That hip hop didn't start in the 1980s. It started back in the 1890s with a man named Paul Laurence Dunbar. Paul Laurence Dunbar, African-American master poet born in Dayton, Ohio, had two best friends in the Dayton High School. These two white boys were best friends with Paul Laurence Dunbar. You know boys' names, Wilbur and Orville Wright. The Wright brothers went off to Kitty Hawk. They wanted to fly. Paul Dunbar, he wanted to play with pen, quill, and parchment. In 1895, ladies and gentlemen, he wrote a book called Majors and Minors. And in that book is one of those pieces of work that I need your call and response from. Wait a minute. Any Baptists in here? Thank you. Amen. Any Catholics? Y'all on your own. No genuflecting in the story. But we'll roll on the call and response. Let's call our piece, Jump Back, Honey, Jump Back. In the African American tradition. Wait a minute, ma'am, I think we need a rehearsal. Let's do it. I see some blank stares out there. What are you talking about? I will do the main part. And every phrase, when I hit it and I do this, your retort is, jump back, honey, jump back. All right, jump back, honey, take one. Here we go. Get ready. A one, a two, a one, a two. I seen my lady home last night. Yeah, held her hand and squeezed it tight. By George, I think they got it. All right. Here we go. All right. Okay, I need to tell you. Now, before I leave this podium, I have to tell you, I am standing on the shoulders of some very powerful people in the St. Louis public school system that helped put me in this position. And in 1969, I graduated from Charles Sumner High School. Any bulldogs in the house? All right, that brother right there, we grew up together. Yeah, he may be Terry Kennedy to y'all, he's still Kuja Lewi to me. Love it, brother, Patty. Okay, here we go. Oh, when I do this, that's when you say your part. If I don't do that, shut up. Director's note, here we go. Ma'am, you ready? Front row center? Okay, let's roll. A one, a two, a one, a two. I seen my lady home last night. Yeah, held her hand and squeezed it tight. Hey, hear her sigh, a little sigh, seen a light gleaming from her eye, and a smile go flitting by. Yeah, I heard the wind blow through the pine. Yeah, the mockingbird was singing fine. Hey, and my heart was beating so when I reached my lady's door that I couldn't bear to go. Yeah, I put my arm around her waist. Yeah, raised her lips and took a taste. Oh. He said, love me, honey, love me true, love me well, that I love you. And she answered, course I do. The mallet wants to go home.
Yes, apparently it does. Thank you so much. It's a great way to start off our meeting today. We will dispense with line item 4, introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 10.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to have as my honored guest first my daughter, Ayana, who celebrated her birthday yesterday. And in addition to that, with her love, Bobby revealed that we are expecting a baby girl in the fall. So congratulations, Ayana and Bobby. I love you all to death. I am immeasurably proud of you all. And like my sister reminded me yesterday, I have a new title, Alder Granny.
Yay. Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As my honored guest is Ms. Lois Conley from the Griot Museum. I also see my Uncle Malik in the chamber, as well as my SEIU family. I see Shantae, Kevin, and all y'all that made me the kind of organizer that I am today. So thank you all for being here today.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further of introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the approval of the minutes from Friday, April 5th, 2024.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Friday, April 5th, 2024.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we approve the minutes from Friday, April 5th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review.
Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendar? Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendar? Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Seeing none, first reading of board bills.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 12, reference to committee of board bills.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 13, second reading and report of standing committees.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 14, report of special committees.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 15, board bills for perfection consent.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 16A, board bills for perfection.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item number 16B, report of engrossment. If we could
Board
for the first.
She's on 4.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to place Board Bill 240 on the informal calendar.
Madam Clerk, please make note.
Which one is it?
Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 237 as amended, 234, 205, 143, Committee Sub, 176, 181 as amended, 238 Floor Sub, 231 as amended, 241 as amended, 232, 236 Committee Sub as amended, 185 Floor Sub, 105 Floor Sub, 106 as amended, 197, and Board Bill 206.
Third reading and final passage of board bills consent.
Board Bill 237 as amended, 234, 205, 143, Committee Sub, 176, 181 as amended, 238, Floor Sub, 231 as amended, and Board Bill 241 as amended.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of board bills on the consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Call.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Valmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sine. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
Board Bill 232, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Boyd, and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. An ordinance directing the Director of the City's Health Department, Chief of St. Louis Fire Department, and Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department to implement a program for a parent to deliver an infant to the care of the state as provided in the Missouri Safe Place for Newborns Act, and to designate engine house and area patrol stations as location for receiving infants pursuant to new Safe Place for Engine for Act for designating Fire Department House 17 as such location containing effective date.
Alderwoman from the 11th, you're recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 232.
Good morning, Madam President and members of the board. I would ask for passage of Board Bill 232. So, thank you.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 12th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 32. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
So, Board Bill 232 would place a baby safe box at Firehouse 17, which is located in the 11th Ward. I'm somewhat disturbed that this morning at 15 minutes prior to walking into session, I am getting calls and text messages where people want me to hold this bill. I will not. This bill is not citywide. Although I would hope that other alders here would see that this is something that is needed, and it is a viable alternative to a child who is already here, being placed in harm's way. So with that, I would ask for your favorable passage.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 1st.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm one of the problem children that she's speaking of right now. Alderwoman, I appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to me about this. I appreciate the discussion that we had last week on this, and this is a bill that, as I've learned more about it and as I've learned more about the topic, I've gotten increasingly uncomfortable with as a concept. It's absolutely right. We're here at the last meeting of session. Being in a situation where you have a colleague asking you to move something is probably incredibly frustrating. I would feel the same way. But what I've learned about these baby boxes is that, on the face of them, it seems like an opportunity, something that might offer help to a community. But when you start digging a little bit deeper, you realize that this would sever the child completely from their family, would not allow any knowledge of the medical history of the baby. You don't even know who put the baby in the situation. You have no idea whether the parents that are involved are getting the interventions that they need, the opportunities they need. There's just no opportunity at all to know that. And it looks like an opportunity, but when you start digging a little deeper, it seems like it has some more layers to it that might not be as helpful to the family and the child as other options could be, including the ability to use the safe places that are available now that are not as completely anonymous as this would be. So I do appreciate the time you've taken to talk with me about this. I hear you loud and clear that asking you again to put it on the informal calendar is not going to happen, so I will stop asking. And I appreciate your time. I will be a no today, and I could have possibly been a yes if I had a little bit more time, and that's on me, as you stated. So thank you so much for your time today, and that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, the Alderwoman from the 11th will yield.
The Alderwoman from the 11th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th.
Yes, I will.
Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Alderwoman, I just am trying to understand this. This is nothing that forces anybody to do anything. This was what I understood baby boxes, so I must be missing something, is that a lot of people were abandoning children in dumpsters, alleys, and many other unsanitary places, bathrooms, whatever. In fact, in my family, I'm one of 32 first cousins, and one of them was born in Texas and was abandoned in a trash can. When I tell you, in my family, we wish that he had someplace, or that his mother felt that she had someplace else, because she was not keeping him. He is now in his 50s, headed towards 60. She was not going to keep him. It wasn't like she said, I could get an abortion or I could do something else. I'm not going to keep him. Now, years later, I helped him find his birth mother, and they had so you still can find, because I really am for open adoptions. That has always been my thing. If you adopt, I believe in open adoptions. I believe that people should have a right to know who they came from, even more so than the parent who gave them up. When you get to be a certain age, you need to know your medical history. You're not advocating any of that. You're advocating that in certain instances, people will take a baby and they decide they're not going to keep it and give it a safe place to be. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I think this is marvelous, and I usually don't do this much, but please, if it's not too late, I would love to have my name added to it. I do understand the Alderwoman from the first concern, but there are going to be people who will abandon children. And so this is firsthand in my family. And, you know, he found that out later because my aunt was one that wanted him to have an open adoption. And when he was old enough, we all helped him find his birth mother. And so it didn't hurt. If he had had someplace much more sanitary, that would have been a great place. It could be some of these babies are not found. It's cold. They freeze to death. Animals get at them. So saying that instead of feeling like that you can't do anything else, because sometimes these mothers are really embarrassed. My cousin is half Hispanic and half black, and his mother was Hispanic. And she didn't want to tell her parents she was pregnant by a black man, and so she abandoned him in a trash can. It's all kind of things that happen. Everybody doesn't feel safe, and this is a safe thing, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And I do understand the Alderwoman's concerns from the first, but first and foremost, I understand keep the babies safe. And thank you for introducing this legislation.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I wanted to thank Alderwoman Keys for her work on this. We had a committee hearing where we talked about it in depth. For me, this was a brand new topic that I had heard of, but never really thought of what the implementation of it would be and what it would look like. And so since that committee hearing, have had more conversations, an additional one with the Alderwoman where she was very responsive, but also some additional conversations with stakeholders who are in a reproductive justice space who deal with this work, I think a lot more, regularly than I do, and even got just a couple of questions from constituents that I wasn't prepared to answer because it was such a new topic. And after some of those conversations and some of the things lifted up, I even reached out to the firefighters. And again, they let me know that themselves and Alderwoman Keys had conversations and talked about what some of the implementation looks like. But I do think from some of my conversations with all the parties, I think we want the same things. I think we all want to have a safe space for our babies and for our children to go. We want parents who are in tough positions to do it. But I do think that there is a concern with if they're dropped off and there's no paper trail and there's no connection to resources, the risk that could be. In my conversation with the firefighters, they did indicate that perhaps what should happen is that they should be in the room, sponsor, and some of the organizations that have concerns and could talk about ways additional things that could be put in place if a policy like this were to be passed, where there was not, a baby box, but also, hey, come in, we can connect you to this resource. We have this available. Just things that I think would take more time. So I do also want to apologize to the Alderwoman because I think you've done your due diligence. For me, this was just a brand new topic that I hadn't heard of, didn't know about, needed to go do work, go learn more about it. And at our committee hearing, didn't necessarily have outside voices besides us as colleagues to be there. So I'll be voting present on this today in hopes that we can. I think it is a solid bill. I just would love to see something in there that has other resources for a parent available so that, if you don't want to just drop your child off, if you do need, more opportunity to have a conversation about resources available to you, or if there's a way that we can also encourage, how can we get the social security number for the child or any of the other information because it's just a baby with that drop off. I hope that we can have those conversations. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I hear what the Alderwoman from the 7th is saying. You don't have those resources when they drop them in the trash can. You just have a less safe babies. The good thing about this day and age is we have what's called DNA. And it's pretty daggum good. When I first was practicing law, DNA came out really strong in about 1989, 90. And we were really kind of, oh my God, DNA, we can use this for criminal things. But what it does is it says who your birth parents are. That would be good if we could have a trail. But you don't always have a trail. And these boxes, as I understand it, came from the fact that the people who didn't have a trail, it gave them an alternative of not having to leave your baby any place. Baby is more important. Years in the future, I'm hoping that they unseal a lot of files People who register for these registries online, look out, because even if you didn't say, that connects you with DNA. When they run that DNA, that's how they find criminals now sometime, or who somebody's related to criminals. So there is a lot better chance that you will be able to find your family or some family member than years ago. But when people feel like that they are cornered in a box, and especially a lot of young ladies do this, they will abandon those babies any place. It is better to have a safe, sanitary place than a bathroom or a trash can or an alley or any of those kind of places. It's better to be safe. And we will work on the paperwork later. But if you say you can't have that, and then you put them out on the street, that is not a good idea. This is a good, safe alternative. And again, thank you for sponsoring this bill, Alderwoman. This is in no way going to keep technology from advancing, and it's going to get better and better. And I am an advocate, as I said, of open adoption. I don't have children, but if I had, I wanted an open adoption. I did not want for the child not to know. If parents can love more than one child, then children can love more than one set of parents. And this is just a safe alternative. And again, you can't force people to leave a trail, because if they leave that baby, they don't leave a trail either. They don't leave Social Security numbers or anything like that. And Madam President, members of the board, Madam President, I just have another question from the Alderwoman, if she would yield.
Would the Alderwoman from the 11th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th?
Yes, I will.
Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you. And so does leaving the baby in the box in any way prevent, say that if you leave that baby in the box, that you can't leave identifying trace, that you can't leave a blanket, that you can't leave a note, that you can't leave anything? Does it prevent that from happening?
No, nothing prohibits you from leaving whatever along with the child safely placed in the box.
And does the program say that somehow the children cannot do the same thing as a child who's placed in the alley or the dumpster, then go look for their parents?
Not a thing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
President, members of the board, I had that question too about DNA and the ability to track where the baby is from. I actually have a cousin recently who was in a situation where, because of circumstances, gave the child up and actually got charges pressed against her, because you can use DNA to chase where, who the family was and who the parent was. And so that, again, that's what I'm trying to highlight. I'm so sorry, Alderwoman. Again, I do think that I owed you the courtesy of kind of earlier communication and kind of sorting through this. But again, to Alderwoman Tice's point, for me, this is not about you. I think that your heart is in the right place. I do think that there's a path forward. It's just that as you learn about things, sometimes you learn about some of the unintended consequences. And we do live in the state of Missouri. What is to say that if we put this in place and folks, that happens, that the state can decide, well, you need to press charges against people who do that. You can use DNA to track the parents are and then file charges against the parent if DNA is used. And I'm just not clear. Again, these are all things that have just come to light with me as I've been learning about these conversations, but these are things that I just would like to see some safeguards and some protections against within the bill.
May I respond?
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you. So in terms of, this is already something that is at the state level. So this isn't something that is strictly in St. Louis County or now possibly in St. Louis City. When we talk about a child who is placed in a baby-safe box, and I think I can speak from a place of experience having worked as a child abuse investigator here in the city of St. Louis. When a child is placed in that box, they are conveyed to Children's Division. An alarm goes off to alert them that there's a child. According to state statute, the moment an abuse charge hits your desk, you must go immediately to begin your investigation. When that child is conveyed into state custody, care, and control, everything that they need will be provided at the state level. That's the law, okay? So that being the case, when we talk about a child not having a social security number, the state does that. There are many children all across this country who have been placed in situations that needed state assistance to be and stay safe. I grew up with a gentleman, Oliver Wendell Floyd. And Floyd was, we call him Wendell or Floyd, but he was adopted a few days after his birth. And as a 60-year-old man, through, again, DNA, was able to find both of his birth parents, and thankfully they were both still alive. And so what a wonderful world we live in today, where DNA can tell me that the majority of my DNA is from Cameroon and from Bantu, and yes, 22% from Ireland. What a wonderful world that DNA could help Floyd find his birth parents and additional siblings. So I think that some of the things that are being raised are not necessarily based in fact. Having worked in the industry where our job, our only job, was to safeguard and to protect children, I do believe I know the process a little better than the average layperson.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President. Will the Alderwoman from the 11th yield?
The Alderwoman from the 11th yield to questioning from the Alderman from the 14th.
Yes, I will.
Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Alderwoman, for yielding. I just want to, I listened to the HUD's committee when your bill was presented, and I know you had a special guest of a young lady who wasn't part of an organization, but speaking very highly about kind of this piece of legislation. And I know we didn't go into deep details. So just for my clarity, how would this work? So it would be the one firehouse in your ward that would have a box where a baby could be placed in. Would that box be inside? Would that box be outside?
So the box is, it's outside the building. So this person would not have to go into the station. This box is climate controlled. So it has plenty of oxygen. It's warm in the winter. It's cooler in the summer. But more importantly, the alarm that sounds immediately when that box is closed. The people in the fire station know, according to state law, you are a mandated reporter. You must go immediately to get that child from the box. Children's Division is alerted. That child, really within less than an hour, should be, because the Wainwright building's right downtown, it shouldn't take an hour to get to Firehouse 17 to collect a child, take them to the local children's hospital to make sure that they're basically healthy, and then the process with the state begins.
And if the box isn't closed, I guess would that alarm not go off? Because you said the alarm only goes off once the box is closed.
The box can't be left open. You unlock, when you open the door, once that door is closed, it is sealed. You can't go back and open it again. So the door is not fixed where, we just gonna leave it swung open.
Okay, I'm just trying for clarity. So you open the box to place the baby. Mm-hmm. How does that box close? Does the person individually close the box?
They individually.
So if the individual do not close the box is still open.
So what would be the point of someone leaving the box open?
I mean, the point of somebody who also is dropping their child off could be multiple reasons, right? They don't have the ability to take care of it. They may be strung out on drugs. You know, my younger brother is adopted, and we adopted him because his mom was crack with him when he was in the womb. So we didn't want to lose him to the adoption agency, right? I think there's a line of reasons why somebody, are saying I'm giving away my rights and may not mentally be there. So what I'm asking is that the process, how does it close? So when you say, why would somebody do that? I mean, there's many reasons why somebody would give their child up mentally as well, because they're not in a space to do that. So I was just curious about this box process, because I really am. This isn't a get you, got you. I've never heard about this, and I did some research since some of the groups reach out, and I also agree with you. I do wish that those groups did their due diligence. I could also did my due diligence as an alderman and read the piece of legislation. But I'm curious, again, if the box is not closed, and the only way you're saying it would be closed is if somebody closed it, correct?
Right, so if let's say on the off chance, somebody goes and opens that box, an alarm sounds. Again, this is a climate control box.
So the box can
It
be.
has to maintain a certain climate that would support life for an infant. So if that box is open, it is no longer receiving the level of HVAC, whatever, that it should have in order to be a comfortable and safe place for a child. There are alarms, and more than one alarm. I think there's a series of 3 alarms with every box. So when we talk about somebody who is dropping off a child, the point of having the baby safe box is not so that you can come back and say, hey, you delivered this baby to this box and this child is crack addicted. That's not the point. In fact, this is the safe way. Because if you go to the hospital and you deliver a child that is crack addicted or drug addicted, you're going to jail and the child's getting taken anyway. That's the law. That's it.
Okay, I want to just stick on.
Besides-
I just want to stick on this box. So it is possible that somebody could put the baby in the box, and the box
And
could
the
still be
alarm
open.
sound is
But the box could still be open if they don't close it. Correct?
that I can't answer 100%, but I guarantee you that the alarms that are on these boxes, the minute that climate is no longer maintained, those alarms are going off. Because a child can't be in a box that would not have the appropriate air in it, because then that would cause a whole nother set of problems.
Okay, and you also said that this box can be open, and if it's open, an alarm will go off.
Alarm goes off. There's a series of 3 alarms that go off. So the people in the firehouse are alerted not to go out and accost anyone, look for who left it. It is totally 100% anonymous.
Okay. Just to speak on board bill, I do. This was brought to my attention also kind of at the last minute, and I made it very clear to the organizers of the organization. I wish they, we have organizations that, specialize in a lot of different things, like the union and workers. The group that reached out, I wish they would have kind of did their due diligence to express their concerns either during the hearing or before that. So it doesn't look slighted, because I do believe the Alderwoman has done all her due diligence in her process. She had a hearing, she had it voted out. It was voted last week. But with doing my research on these baby boxes, what I found out of countless articles from The Guardian, New York Times, of how these baby boxes are also being pushed on a national level. And I don't think this is the Alderwoman's intent, but on a national level from pro-life groups throughout the country, even here in the state of Missouri, pro-lifers, as we are trying to fight back and bring Roe versus Wade back. These groups are the ones who are advocating for these baby boxes. You have pregnant crisis centers who have been on the opposite side of Planned Parenthood, who have also kind of pushed for these type of boxes. And again, I want to go on record, I know that's not the Alderwoman intent at all. But I wouldn't want us to push a narrative that we're passing this and kind of being part of that national movement that is happening from these pro-life organizations who want to take away the ability from women to choose of what they want to do with their body, that we support in similar legislation. And with doing my research, I would probably move to a present, because I do think the Alderwoman did her due diligence on this legislation. But with me learning and doing more research, that's my job, to look into the legislation, seeing that this is, again, being pushed by far-right, pro-life individuals. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Will the Alderwoman from the 11th please yield for questions?
Yes, I will.
The Alderwoman from the 11th yield to questioning from the Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you. Yes, I will.
Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Alderwoman. So I know when we look at family law, which is not my area of expertise, but something that got drilled into my brain in law school, we mostly concern ourselves with what's in the best interest of the child. And I'm a fan of expertise, and I know that you've worked as a child abuse investigator and that you've done your research here. So I just have a couple questions that I hope will inform me a little bit more. You mentioned that there are a few more of these in the state, that this is a product of state statute?
One,
Okay.
Melville.
And has it been utilized before?
Yes, it has.
It has. Do you know how the frequency that it gets utilized?
It made the news maybe a couple months ago. There was a child left.
Okay. And so when the baby's placed in the box, you said that then it goes to Division of Family Services?
Children's Division.
Children's Division, okay. So is there any, my real concern here, my only real concern here is someone who shouldn't put the baby in a box, putting the baby in the box. If dad wants out of child support and he places baby in the box, is there so first off, would there be penalties for that sort of behavior?
I'm sure that there probably can be, but that would have to be raised by the other custodial parent. Additionally, let's say that a mom places a baby in a box, right? But unbeknownst to the child's father, he can go and petition to retrieve his child and take care of custody and control.
So that was actually my next question.
There you go.
Is there outreach to the rest of the family, grandparents, uncles, aunts, things like that, when one of these children gets placed in this box, to see if we can place that child with a family member who may know the history of the family, who we hope at least would care about that child and help raise that child?
So what would alert a non-custodial parent, that non-custodial parent beginning the work of saying, hey, this is my child, I didn't consent to have him put here? They would go through the steps with Children's Division. Additionally, they would also go through the Children's Division, and this is on their side of the fence, their responsibility. They must investigate all persons who are related to, and you don't have to be related to a child in order to be granted guardianship. So it would be Children's Division's responsibility to vet each of those persons. So let's say that the young man is 14. He's in no condition to parent a child, but his mother could say, you know what, I'll take care, custody, and control of this child. She would have to undergo the investigations through Children's Division to see if she's a suitable fit, where when we come in to do an investigation, we're going in your refrigerator, we're going in your freezer, we're going in your pantry, we're flushing your toilet, we're making sure you got hot and cold water in the house, we're making sure that if you have a weapon, that it is secured and away from where a child could get to it. We're making sure that you have heat in your house. So there are a number of things on the checklist that the state of Missouri under Children's Division must do to make sure that a child who is placed is in a safe environment.
So then would it be on, say, young man puts baby in box, would it be on grandma then to begin that outreach? Because I'm just trying to think logistically through how it would work.
I mean, if he's the parent, he's the parent. It doesn't matter if he's underage, he's still the parent.
Absolutely.
As a parent, he still has rights.
But so I imagine that most of these children would not be being dropped off with their birth certificate, anything like that.
No, and most of them who are dropped off do not have any paperwork at all. So then it becomes incumbent upon the state to, if they're not adopted, they got to have a name. Mm-hmm. They got to have a social security number. They've got to have all of those things that identify us as being people living here in the United States. So that is the responsibility of Children's Division.
And then currently, and I could be wildly wrong, so I'm just throwing this out there. Currently, under our state law, can you not just take a child to the firehouse and turn them over?
Thank you. Yes, you can. You can do that. And that has been in place for many years. So that's not brand new. But what is brand new about the Baby Safe Box is that when I walk into that firehouse or police station and drop off a baby, people are going to have questions. And this gives that anonymity that might be, hell, any woman in a situation who doesn't want to be a parent or doesn't want it disclosed that she is the parent. This provides an option, and more than anything else, it provides a safe place for a child who is already here. So now I heard the alderman from the 14th say, you know, the pro-choice people. I'm not pro-rights. What is it?
Pro-life. I believe
Pro-life.
For yeah.
I am not connected with them in any way. I am pro-choice, have always been, but I have a duality that makes me say, you know what? A person who's here has the right to have a life. I'm an adoptive parent. So not only have I worked in the industry, I have hopefully rescued a child from a situation that may have been horrific. And that is important too.
Absolutely. As you may be able to tell by my line of questioning, I'm just trying to reconcile the rights and privileges of the child with the rights and privileges of the parent who would give the child away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to reconcile those two things in my head, and I'll be honest, I share your frustration with this. This was a slam dunk, I thought, until 30 minutes before this meeting, where people started bringing these questions up to me, and I was like, "Wow, I just hadn't thought about this." My
question is always, if it was that important, if you were so far against it, this has been out here a couple of weeks now, So
I share your frustration there. I certainly do. I'm going to continue to listen to the debate here. I wish that these points were raised in committee when we could have discussed them and hashed them out more. Because here we are at Sine. But thank you for your time. And with that, I'll yield.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Will the Alderwoman from the 11th yield to questioning?
The Alderwoman from the 11th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 7th.
Yes, I will.
Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I just wanted to ask you about just my concerns about prosecution. Are there any protections in the bill, or maybe what you can share about the process? Like specifically, is there any protections that would, any state laws or anything that says any rules around the prosecution around, parents who might drop off their child?
So, the purpose of the box is to provide full anonymity. If you want to walk up to the box wearing a mask, you can. No, there's no prosecution for you. That's the purpose of the box, so that nobody's looking for you. Nobody's trying to identify you. Now, let's say your child is 30 years old and they decide, you know what, I really want to know. That's what we got, 23andMe. What's the other? We got a whole slew of them now. Back in the day, you used to have just one. Now you've got many of these DNA companies that are able to do very comprehensive DNA, including DNA to identify what health issues you may be prone to. So if you bring up the point, they don't know their health history, DNA can tell you that. So I don't really understand why we're going on and on about an issue that is simply to keep a child who is already here safe. That's all. It's not complicated. It's not hard. This child is already here. For whatever reason, and I'm not judging, that a woman, no matter what her age, if she were to find herself in a situation where maybe she didn't have the money to go out of town to have an abortion. Maybe this was a case of rape or incest, or maybe it was a case of kids fooling around and she ended up pregnant and she had it in the gymnasium in the back, or put it under the bleachers at school. Mm-hmm. This is to keep a child who is already here safe. It's not to stop anybody from exercising their choice to get abortion. Again, I am pro-choice as pro-choice can get. But again, on that other side, if there's a child here, they deserve a chance to have a life. They deserve the chance to possibly be adopted. And I have to mention that African American children generally don't get adopted. They grow up in foster care. So this does provide an option. No system is 100% foolproof. You're always going to have bad actors who are going to make some bad decisions. But I will err every time on protecting a child who is here. If you decide to have an abortion, hell, I'll drive you. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to do something that would not safeguard a child who is already here.
Understood. Are you familiar with the Missouri Safe Places for Newborns Act?
I'm not that familiar with it.
I won't pretend to be an expert either, and I would imagine even if you didn't learn about it as a child investigator, you probably have dealt with it more than I have. But again, when my cousin told me about the situation, I just took a look into what things were in place that allowed for that to happen. In her case, she's schizophrenic and was having an episode in addition to postpartum, depression, post-birth, ended up giving the child up and ended up leading to charges. So for me, I just wanted to, again, apologize to you again. I'm not the organization, right? But obviously, I think I know the frustration well of working on something and feeling like some things arise last minute for concerns to address. So I want to apologize again. And then number two, I just want to say that I'm also committing to you publicly on the record, if we need to bring this back, I want to be at the table. I want to be a part of those conversations. And then I was going to say the third thing is that the only thing that I could find in regards to protections against parents, who might do this, would be the Missouri for Safe Places Newborns Act. But my only concern, and I actually found that on the Children's Division's website, but my only concern is that it's only for 45 days of the child being here. Mm-hmm. So I'm just concerned, if the parent gives up the child after the 45 days, I don't see any protections in place for them. But again, I do think that's something that we could talk about, how to put that into this bill. That's really my only big concern. I want to make sure that I get the point of this policy. I get the point of the bill. I've seen instances where it works out well, where it gives a safe space to children otherwise. But I also think there are places, unfortunately, legislators and people with political power and agendas much different than ours. And I just want to make sure that there's some protections in place so that it's not wielded against the parents. And again, it's just a new topic. So I just think there's a lot to learn. It's not even something that in committee I would have thought of bringing up or seeing, because I didn't even know this was a whole level of state policy and state law. So I just wanted to mention that concern and just make sure too that on the record I let you know, if we do need to revisit this, I will be there at the table. Thank you.
So if I may, this is not necessarily new. It's new to the city of St. Louis. And so these laws at the state level are already in place. Any mother has choices all along the way. From the time that she discovers that she is with child, she's got some choices to make. And I applaud and I will fight to defend her right to make whatever choice she chooses, whether it's to go to an agency that will provide wraparound services so that she can have a healthy and safe pregnancy, whether it is, let me go to another state, since we can't do it here in Missouri. I support all of that. I'm not trying to stop anything, except for a child being harmed and possibly dying because of fear. Fear that someone will find out. Fear that I can't take care of a child. Fear that I happen to be on drugs at the time that I delivered this baby. Fear for whatever the number of reasons might be. I don't want my parents to find out. that I was sexually active, and as a result, I've not only gotten pregnant, given birth to a child. What do? This is simply another choice.
Alderwoman from the 13th.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to make a comment. I wanted to applaud the Alderwoman from the 11th for her perseverance and her vision and foresight to help St. Louis City go to another level in protecting our newborn babies and the choices that people make. In the society that we have today, people, as she say, are fearful to even let people know what's going on in their lives because they fear retaliation. And so I don't think she's trying to stop or stray any kind of decisions other people make. She's just trying to, as you all use, and I'm giving it back to you, you put in she's adding another tool in the toolbox to help those parents and those people to be able to deal with situations that they normally wouldn't know which way to go. So thank you for having that foresight and understanding what it is for a parent, especially young parents that have no knowledge of what to do in these situations, that you give them an exit to be able to feel relieved that their baby will be safe. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 11th, you are recognized to close.
Well, with all of that being said, I would ask for a favorable vote to pass Board Bill 232 to place a baby safe box in the 11th Ward. Let me say that again, in the 11th Ward at Firehouse number 17, which would be the first and at this time the only baby safe box in the city of St. Louis. Thank you.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 12th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 232. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sine. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
No.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
9 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 4 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 12th to third read and finally pass Board Bill number 232.
Board Bill 236, Committee Sub as amended, sponsored by Alderman Narayan, President Green, and Alderwoman Sanye. An ordinance amending Section 3 of Ordinance Number 71620, codified in Chapter 3.160.030 of the City of St. Louis Revised Code of Ordinances, requiring applicants for a development proposal requesting a tax incentive to include information about previous tax incentives awarded to the same developer and previous tax incentives awarded to past projects on same parcel, and requiring SLDC to share information about certain proposals with relevant labor union organizations, and requiring that the applicants list any past or present agreements or contracts they have with labor organizations.
Alderman from the 4th, you're recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 236, Committee Substitute as amended.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 236, Committee Sub as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we finally pass Board Bill 236 committee substitute as amended. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you. I think the clerk's summation of the bill was great. I ask for your consideration.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 36 committee substitute as amended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Aye. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sine. Alderwoman Spencer. Aye. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman, thank you. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 4th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 236 committee substitute as amended.
Board Bill 185, floor sub, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge and Alderman Narayan. An ordinance setting forth regulations for the use of surveillance technology by the City of St. Louis, requiring surveillance technology usage and specific technologies be approved by the Board of Aldermen after required public hearing before any such surveillance technology may be used and plans may be put into practice, containing a severability clause and an emergency clause.
Alderman from the 14th, you're recognized in the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 185, floor substitute.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move to finally pass Board Bill 185, floor substitute.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 185, floor substitute. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Board Bill 185 is a years of work been done. It started with our legendary Alderman Terry Kennedy, various alder people from John Collins Muhammad, Annie Rice, and I also believe former Alderwoman Christina Gracia also filed this piece of legislation. What Board Bill 185 does is provide oversight when it comes to surveillance technologies that is being used in the city of St. Louis. As we continue to, as technology continues to advance, we want to ensure that our officers and other departments have all the necessary tools to be able to make sure that our streets are safe, but at the same time, we want to protect civil liberties of the people of the city of St. Louis. This creates a process for transparency, accountability, and oversight that allows residents to be able to come to the Board of Aldermen, which we are the only body that really has a place where residents can be able to weigh in on the different pieces of technology. I'll save my thank yous, and just it was a lot of hard work put into this when I close on the piece of legislation.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, and thank you, Alderman Aldrich, for your work on this bill. I just want to reflect or just note, I was a co-sponsor. I don't know if all the co-sponsors are listed on our agenda, but if I'm not already on there, I just want to make sure I am.
Yeah, I think there are a bunch missing because I was also a co-sponsor on it.
So I guess if the clerk could just add me or make sure that it's reflected and the other co-sponsors.
Yeah.
Are we surveilling that?
Right. If Madam Clerk could just verify or just make sure that everybody who had requested to be a co-sponsor is a co-sponsor on the final bill.
Thank you.
I'm going to go Alderman from the 4th, then Alderwoman from the 7th. Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, members of the board. Just want to commend the sponsor here. As he noted, this is been a long road, and I think I've really gotten to know the aldermen during this last year working on this. We started off with two pretty different positions on this, and I think we've been able to compromise on many things over the course of the last year on this bill. I want to thank him for his willingness to work on it and to not simply count to 8 and ram things down people's throats, but to actually work in the spirit of compromise and make sure that we had some buy-in from all the stakeholders, whether it be community activists or SLMPD itself. We made sure that the administration thought this was a workable bill, that the chief of police thought this was a workable bill. The Police Officers Association has weighed in. We've heard from virtually everyone that this will affect, and as Chair of Public Safety, I look forward to having this come into law and carrying out what's laid out in it in terms of the community engagement with technology moving forward. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you. I want to second what the alderman from the 4th said about all of his kudos and congratulations and the stakeholder process. Alderman from the 14th kept the Public Safety Committee pretty busy with this bill, with plenty of meetings and conversations behind the scenes. And then also really wanted to make sure that I thanked Terry Kennedy as well. He asked me not to embarrass him by making him come in here, but I know that he's watching somewhere, so I just want to make sure that I thank him too. I think this is one of those moments where for me, especially as a Black alder, I feel extremely proud to be able to carry something forward that I know has started with us and that I know didn't necessarily have a political path forward, but here's an example of starting this conversation, making sure that the conversation has, and alder after alder after alder, bringing it back until today where the alderman from the 14th is carrying a bill that is going to pass, and also want to echo the sentiments of the alderwoman from the 6th and make sure that I'm also listed as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderman from the 14th, you are oh, sorry, there are some online. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I too just want to make sure that I'm listed as a co-sponsor on the bill. And I'm not sure if that might have kind of happened as a result of some of our rules that we'll be discussing about tomorrow.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Is there another Alderman from the 13th? I saw a hand up for a second. No? Okay. Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Like the Alderwoman from the 7th Ward said, this is a long time coming. I appreciate our elder and just my former mentor, Mr. Clerk Kennedy, for starting this process, and it involved along the way a lot of negotiation. It's as I told him, it's not as strong as when he started off, but that's kind of the process of trying to get somewhere where everybody supported. I can go down the list to thank each alderperson that laid a hand in this piece of legislation, but honestly, it was every alderperson at this board, even the ones that didn't agree with it, gave me a lot of criticism and a lot of input on it. And the ones that was in the middle or the ones that needed to get somewhere, I appreciate all the input to be able to make this bill get to a final place that is supportive. Thank all the stakeholders. The police department was part of these conversations when we probably originally started. The chief came to the hearing and said he was against the bill. So we was able to get to a place that made it where it's operable for the department, as well as the mayor administration, who also did the same. And also, more importantly, I want to thank the community, because the community has been the one who've been organizing around this piece of legislation for the last several years to try to get it to this place. And also, of course, have to thank my Jasheen, who spent countless hours in meetings with me from your office, Madam President, and allowing her to be on this project. So thank everybody who was part of it. And with that, I move to finally third read and final pass Board Bill 185, somewhere around those scripts.
You got it. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 185, floor substitute. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
No.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Aye. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Aye. Alderwoman Sine.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Aldridge,
Aye.
President Green,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
13 aye votes and 2 no votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 14th, third read, and finally pass Board Bill number 185, floor substitute.
Board Bill 105, floor sub, sponsored by Alderman Cone, President Green, and Alderwoman Keys. An ordinance relating to traffic control, repealing ordinance number 66868, and establishing the Automated Camera Enforcement Act, authorizing installation of and contracts relating to one or more automated traffic control system as defined herein, and establishing standards for prosecution of violations of traffic control ordinances detected by automated traffic control systems.
Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 105, floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we pass Board Bill 105, floor substitute.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 105, floor substitute. Alderman, you may.
Thank you, Madam President. Board Bill 105, floor substitute, as everyone is familiar, is the automated camera enforcement. I think the clerk did a fine job reading this amazing Board Bill. What there are outstanding questions.
Alderman, we cannot hear you.
I move. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that is much better.
Okay, thank you. I move for third reading and final passage of Board Bill 105, floor substitute.
Any further discussion? It had already been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Alderman from the 9th.
Hello, there we go. Thank you. Similar issue we were having earlier. I just want to make sure I was listed as a co-sponsor for this, and also wanted to thank the sponsor, the Alderman from the 3rd, for all the work he's done on this. I think this is a very thoughtful approach that really addresses many of the concerns that people had about this issue. I have received a lot of support from residents in my ward for this effort and making sure that we can make our streets safer. Again, emphasizing that any small difference we can make in the traffic violence that we see on our streets is something that we should absolutely do, and a step that we should take here at this board. Again, just want to make sure I'm listed as a co-sponsor, and thank you again to the Alderman from the 3rd.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President. I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we finally pass Board Bill number 105, floor substitute. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Oldenburg,
Aye.
Alderman Cone,
Aye.
Alderman Narayan, Alderman Valmer, Alderwoman Velazquez, Alderwoman Sine, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Brown, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Boyd,
No.
Alderman Aldridge,
Aye.
President Green,
Aye.
12 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you have sustained the motion from the Alderman from the 3rd to third read and finally pass Board Bill 105, floor substitute.
Board Bill 106, as amended, sponsored by Alderman Cone, President Green, Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Narayan, Alderwoman Sanye, and Alderwoman Keys. An ordinance establishing the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Improvement Fund, authorizing the appropriation of those funds to be used for certain projects to prevent traffic accidents and fatalities and improve traffic safety citywide, requiring annual reports developed by the Street Department and presented to the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee regarding the expenditures of funds contained in the severability clause.
Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 106 as amended.
Thank you, Madam President. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Board Bill 106 as amended is the establishment of the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Improvement Fund. This, has already been discussed at length as well. In addition to Board Bill 105, essentially it's taking the revenue that would be generated from any automated camera enforcement and putting that into a neighborhood traffic safety improvement fund that'll help fund things like driver's education and infrastructure enhancements to hopefully curtail some of the dangerous driving that's happening on our city streets.
Would you like to make a motion to third read and finally pass?
I thought I had done that, but thank you. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 106 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 106 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Just echo, I believe I was a co-sponsor on this one and 105, so noted to be on 105 and 106.
Thank you. If we could just verify all of the requests for co-sponsorships from last meeting. Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you. Same request. Would love to be a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President. I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderperson from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 106 as amended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Orion. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez. Aye. Alderwoman Sine. Aye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Aye. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 3rd to third read and finally pass Board Bill 106 as amended.
Board Bill 197, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated November 14, 2023, for the 2601 Market Street area in the city of St. Louis.
Alderwoman from the 11th, you're recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 197.
Good morning again, and thank you, President Green and members of the board. I would ask for passage of Board Bill number 197.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 197. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
So Board Bill 197, as the members of the board here know, this is a $125 million development that has a 10-year 75% tax abatement located in the 11th Ward. The new development is proposed by Midas Enterprises at 2601 Market. It's right there at the corner of Market and Jefferson, which now there are 2 vacant lots. The property was originally owned by Wells Fargo, and the proposed site now would house 2 hotels. One is a Staybridge, and the other is I'm sorry, let me check my notes here. I always forget the second name. Kempton Staybridge Hotel. And so the project was delayed due to some negotiations, and a heck of a deal was reached. And so Midas and their stakeholders have agreed to work with Unite Here to accommodate homeless St. Louis public school students and their families during inclement weather. They have a certain set number for that. Additionally, the project would create 150 construction jobs, 116 full-time equivalent jobs on average. The average salary about $43,000 a year. Midas is committed to working with Green Rivers Greenway and the fund to help the Brick Line expansion and enhance bike and pedestrian access for those visiting St. Louis and Midtown. So these two hotels, the Kempton and Staybridge, would provide needed hotel space for our new soccer stadium, which is doing very well, as well as other events occurring downtown and at Midtown. So with that, I'm open for questions.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just want to rise in support of this piece of legislation that the Alderwoman has worked on. Like she said, it was a lot of negotiations to get here, which I think is important. I've kind of walked in your shoes with another piece of development, but I do think this is good development for the city of St. Louis. Me and you kind of share downtown West and Locust, and I know a lot of people that actually live in that area have been wanting to see this development, same as the one that was the bill that I carried. I think sometimes the negotiations are important, but it also could slow down, I think, good progress. But I appreciate your leadership and others that came to the table to try to figure out how do we get somewhere. I just hope this in the future won't be a hindrance to development as we continue to move forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 197. Madam Clerk, please.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
No.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Palmer. Alderwoman Velazquez.
No.
Alderwoman Sine.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
10 aye votes, 3 no votes, and 2 voted present.
By your vote, you have sustained the motion from the Alderwoman from the 11th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 197.
Board Bill 206, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance approving a petition to establish the 2601 Market Community Improvement District, establishing the 2601 Market Community Improvement District as a political subdivision of the state of Missouri, approving the appointment of the initial board of directors containing a severability clause and an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 11th, you are recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 206.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move to third read and finally pass Board 206.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 206. Alderwoman, you may.
Board Bill 206 is companion to Board Bill 197 that we just passed, and I want to thank you all for that. We'll create a community improvement district at the same site where the Midas Hotels, the Kempton and Staybridge, would authorize a 1% sales tax for that site. Now, that 1% sales tax, let me be clear, that is to persons who are staying at the hotel. That isn't a tax for our taxpayers here in the city of St. Louis. So Midas Development would authorize the 1% sales tax at the site and an assessment for up to $5 per night per room, okay? So the CID is expected to generate $2.7 million to help the infrastructure improvements. So infrastructure improvements, just so that we make sure we're all talking about the same things. So we're talking about the lighting, sidewalks, parking lot, etc.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I do support bill, but I do want to, I think hopefully in the near future we look at CIDs and other type of special districts and be a little bit more critical on them. I know that the auditor has kind of came back and said we need to do better. My concern with this one, and I think the Alderwoman from the first had raised the point last time, if it's already just going to be additional $5 that they tack onto the bill, why not just tack that into the price instead of around kind of this SID? And there's really, what we heard in the committee, there's no time frame. I think that the SID would lapse or at a certain amount of money that they make and be able to make these improvements. Once the improvements are complete, they will continue to be collecting this money that they would just have. So I support it, but I do want us as a city to be a little bit more cautious of how we do CIDs because I think there's better ways that we could be doing it. Thank you.
So in response, if
I was.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Okay. So how many of you all own a house? So if you own a house, you know there's always something to do. Even though you already cut the grass and, your sidewalk from time to time, these are getting regularly used. These are not things that you do it once and it's one and done. You're constantly going to have to, these are upscale hotels, so these are not places where we're just going to keep collecting the money and just let it go down. They have to be maintained. And so while your parking lot may look good year 1 through year 4, you may have to redo that whole lot again at year 5. You may decide that LED lighting needs to be improved because now there's not the infrastructure to support the type of lighting that you put in on year 1, and now we're year 10, and you're having difficulty finding parts. So I understand what you're saying, but like I said, as a homeowner, multiple homes, I know that just because I fixed it once doesn't mean we're done. We got to maintain it. We've got to keep it up. Sometimes we got to tear it all out and redo it again. So to that end, I think that this isn't a situation where they're just going to be able to bank and bank and bank. They're going to have to keep these hotels at the level that they were installed in. They're installed at a 4-star hotel. They want to stay a 4-star hotel. And how do you do that? By keeping your property well maintained.
Alderman from the 14th.
Just to echo to that, I think, I get that. I would say community improvement districts are, and for my elders in the room, I'm always here for a homework lesson. It seems to be for a community district. This isn't a community. This would just be for the hotel only. And if we do community improvement districts for every development that want to keep their sidewalks installed, I did one, but we didn't do a community improvement district so that they could just have their sidewalks and lighting and all that fixed up. There's probably a larger conversation on like our ward capital, and I know there's been conversation in streets of on the public infrastructure committee of like maybe we're not the experts at streets and sidewalks, so maybe we put that money towards that. Whole different conversation. But just to be clear, we just to be doing this for one developer, which I support the project, but it says community improvement district, and it seems like it's going to, it should, for this case, it should be developer improvement fund so that he could be able to use that money just for his sidewalks and his lighting. And if we, again, start to do this for every piece of development, we'll have CIDs at every corner and every development downtown they probably upset now that they ain't got it for, I don't know, Enterprise or the new center that we just gave money to, the convention center. They could apply for a CID if we start using it in a way that only protects themselves and just that entity. Thank you.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I agree with the alderman from the 14th. I think we've seen over the years that SIDs can be problematic even when they're utilized the way that they're supposed to be, which is to take care of a community, things like a business district. Doing it on a single site is a slap in the face to the original intent of a SID even. And this isn't personal towards the alderwoman from the 14th. I just oppose these across the board. When you have a single site, why can't they take care of their own property? I mean, just put it in the price. And as you pointed out, Alderwoman, I own a house. I have to maintain it. I have to maintain the siding, the roof, the lawn, all that. I don't rely on anyone who's just passing through to chip in on the maintenance of my home. And I don't think we should be doing that at the same time that we're trying to increase tourism into the area. I have different feelings on how many luxury hotels we have and how much we engage in developer welfare around here anyway. But to do a single site SID on this, just I can't get behind it. So I'll be a no. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I want to rise in support of this bill. And I think, this is one of the reasons that I love serving here is because I think one of the things that is happening is, that HUD's meeting where we talked about this was honestly one of the most informative conversations that I think we've had about community improvement districts, where even the folks who were here from the St. Louis Development Corporation even spoke about how they're not involved directly in the oversight of these community improvement districts. How state statute kind of leaves some things vague. And I understand all of that, and I do think it's important to have these conversations that the aldermen from the 4th and the 14th are raising. And honestly, it puts me into a position of when the aldermen from the 9th had the bills about the special business district. At the same time, I feel the same way I felt about that. The reason I voted for that is why I'll be voting for this is because individual alders, I don't think that when we are proposing things that are currently allowed, that have been processed and vetted, that have made it through committee, I don't think it's fair to put it on individual alders to, pause or hold back what they're doing because there are some issues in the overall processes and systems and policies. But I certainly do hope that as a board, we will take a look at special business districts and community improvement districts and all of these things and adding the oversight and revisiting the rules and talking about what should be the requirement for a community improvement district. Should it be for a single entity? Should you have to have a certain perimeter? I think there's a lot of conversations that should be had, and I'm actually glad that we can have these conversations while still, acknowledging that work has to go forward and things have to move on. And want to just thank the Alderwoman from the 11th because while filing this bill and trying to help her community, she opened up the door for us to have these conversations. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 11th, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I ask for your favorable vote on Board Bill 206, and I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 206. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sine. Alderwoman Spencer. Aye. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Alderwoman Keys. Aye. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Twelve aye votes, 2 no votes, and 1 voted present.
It's been, by your vote, you have sustained the motion for the Alderwoman from the 11th to have third read and finally pass Board Bill 206. Report of the finally passed and signed by the President.
Board Bill 237 as amended, 234, 205, 143 Committee Sub, 176, 181 as amended, 238 Floor Sub, 231 as amended, 241 as amended, 232, 236 Committee Sub as amended, 185 Floor Sub, 105 Floor Sub, 106 as amended, 197, and Board Bill 206.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law. First reading of resolutions in reference to committees.
We have none.
Can dispense with line item 20. Second reading of resolutions, committee reports, and adoption.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 21. Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
I would like to, for miscellaneous and unfinished business, take a moment of personal privilege just to thank everybody for all of their tireless work this session. Before we close, I'd really like to acknowledge the tremendous work that this board has done and accomplished during this session. Since taking office this time last year, we've invested in modernizing the ways we work and giving members of the public more convenient ways to participate in the process. We've scaled up our staff capacity to manage an ambitious workload and better serve our constituents. And perhaps most importantly, we became a more policy-oriented board, capable of addressing citywide issues with innovative and community-led solutions. These types of changes are vital to reshaping our city, and they set us on a path for being known, not for our problems, but rather for the courage to enact bold policy solutions. Together, we have made it clear that this body will use its authority to leverage tax abatements in favor of workers in schools. The Good Jobs First report released earlier this year detailed how the current process has hollowed out public schools and widened disparities between Black and brown students. And I'm proud of this board for applying a more rigorous approach to these development tools. And thanks to your diligence, we curbed use of abatements by nearly 12% this cycle. Moreover, by instituting common sense reforms, we made our expectations of developers clear. Invest in the communities you impact by paying what you owe. This group of lawmakers responded to the public's demands to reduce reckless driving on our streets without creating unintended consequences for those who live and work here. By bringing back automated traffic enforcement and establishing vital checks and balances of surveillance technologies, we demonstrated our commitment to legislating with, not just for, our community. And in that spirit, establishing the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Improvement Fund will ensure that money generated from fines and fees will be reinvested in communities to create better infrastructure and education opportunities. And I want to thank members of the Public Safety Committee for showing us that we can address complicated issues by sharing the workload with residents, advocates, and other stakeholders in order to reach consensus. We also stabilized housing in our city by establishing a foundational rights for tenants who call St. Louis home. We passed the Right to Counsel program, established an Impacted Tenants Fund, created a rental registry, and set safe temperature standards to allow us to mitigate an escalating housing crisis that pushes people toward housing insecurity. And I want to recognize the members of the Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee for stewarding a process that values collaborative governance by holding multiple hearings on a range of issues and intentionally incorporating public feedback. Our HUD's committee gave the public a reason to participate in the process by helping to rebuild trust between policymakers and our community. And today, with the passage of Board Bill 181 as amended, we will give scores of residents a fresh start by eliminating $80 million in medical debt, so no one has to choose between paying for essentials or paying down debt. I say all of this to remind us of what can be achieved when we say yes. Effective policymaking hinges on our ability to share concerns openly and suggest alternative solutions. When we fail to do these fundamental things, we fail in our obligations to make our city better for everyone. We owe it to our community to achieve the best version of ideas put forth by our colleagues. And in that spirit, thanks to our dedicated Public Safety Committee, we addressed calls to curb the open carrying firearms while also ensuring that officers notify individuals of their rights. Members of the Red Tape Committee lessened the burden on restaurant owners by reforming a process for obtaining liquor licenses. And after years of work, the Transportation and Commerce Committee passed short-term rental regulations that residents have been demanding and deserve. And as a board, we strengthened those measures by focusing on policy solutions and consensus building rather than politics. Heading into the next session, we need to understand that simply saying no applies a standard of perfection to our work that only upholds the status quo. Instead, we should be striving to evaluate policies based upon their potential to improve our city. And when a policy proposal falls short of the goal or creates disagreement about the path forward, we are all responsible for pursuing common ground. Starting tomorrow, we have another opportunity to bring the best of us to our work. We are familiar with our city's declining population. Stimulating growth relies on people's interests in both living and working here. If workers are the backbone of a strong economy, workers' rights are the cornerstone of a strong workforce. And the rights of workers are central to strengthening our local economy. By establishing protections and standards for working individuals and family, we can make our city more attractive to those who are seeking employment. In step with backing workers, we must also continue our efforts to support tenants. The cost of being a renter in our city rose 17% this year. 17%. Stagnant wages and the soaring cost of housing will force more people to live on the streets if we are not prepared with substantive housing initiatives and material alternatives for our unhoused population. As a city, we cannot afford to look the other way and treat these issues as if they are other people's problems. They are our issues, and our role as elected leaders obligates us to treat them in kind. This year ahead also marks the 10-year anniversary of the murder of Mike Brown Jr. As we reflect on this young man's life and the movement his death set into motion, we must find new ways to deepen government's accountability to the public, and by doing so, rebuild trust in institutions charged with the public's interests. Completing our calls in the Ferguson Commission report will be a priority of this next session, as will reforming policies and practices that draw a line between the public and the information needed to make vital public decisions. With that, I ask all of us to recommit ourselves to a process that brings us together with a common purpose, to discover our city's common interest, and from that, build a city that works for everyone. Thank you so much for all of your hard work this year. We accomplished so much, and I can't wait to see what we accomplish together starting tomorrow in this next session. Announcements.
Tuesday,
Okay.
April 16th, 2024, full board meeting in chambers at 11 a.m. That's the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 6th. Aldermen from the 14th. Who's on first? What's on second?
We're just playing Duck Duck Goose back here. Thank you for that amazing speech, Madam President. It is, as a new alder, it has truly been an honor to serve with each and every person down at this board. At times, we kind of become a family, and you guys are all my alderman family. From the arguments, from the laughing, from the outings and lunch, it has truly been great to just serve with each and every one of you. I've learned something from every alder person. I've learned about their community. I learned about their stances, and I just learned how to be a better person because of each alder person. Also, I want to thank the staff here. You know, we have the best staff, and I enjoy coming to work every day to see Madam Clerk Rogers. Madam Clerk Ora. I'm probably getting these titles wrong, but also clerk. We just go. All of them are clerk because I do so many great work, and they all do clerk, and Tracy and Ryan and all our amazing executive secretaries, as well as our legislative assistants that we've, as you talk about, extending the board and giving us capacity. Thank you for that. And also, Madam President, I appreciate your leadership on saying yes, and saying yes to a St. Louis that we need to envision and hopefully be able to move forward. You have always been supportive, even, you know, we've had times where we disagree. People think we're locked to the hip, but it's sometimes we don't always agree. But I appreciate your continuous leadership, and also I appreciate each and every member of your staff that has been a great help to making sure that all the people also have the necessary tools in the toolbox as well. And I also want to give a huge thank you to the legendary Terry Kennedy. He kind of gets his own special shout out. He's around here or he's listening. He keeps us all glued together one way or another, no matter what position you in. You know, the clerk makes it happen. So thank you to that. And then one quick announcement. We are bringing a tradition back to the board, something that is done in Jefferson City, but apparently the board used to do it. So once we gavel out, we will all be throwing papers in the air to celebrate our last day. And each alder that throws a piece of paper in the air, you are responsible for cleaning up your own paper and not the staff. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 7th.
I'm just following suit. I'm a big fan of giving folks their flowers, especially because one of us could not be here tomorrow. So I really want to make sure, like, honestly, each and every single one of you, even the few that I rarely agree with, we have a lot of laughs together. We have a lot of fun. And honestly, I think one of the things that I have most enjoyed about this process, and I think that also has caused me to have to grow, is you really have to know in this role how to talk about your disagreements. You really have to know how to come to the table and listen to everybody. I think prior to being a legislator, I could be a lot more, I didn't realize it, but I could be a lot more selective on who I want to listen to, who I want to be at the table. But what I have enjoyed about being a part of this body is even when folks disagree with you, when they see the intent of what you're trying to do, they will still come to the table with you. They will still give you suggestions. And in some of those cases, the largest critics of initial bills have become the largest supporters, and also their feedback helped to strengthen bills and things to their strongest proposals. I really have enjoyed seeing all of you collaborate as well on your town halls. This session, I didn't do a collaboration with anybody, so here's my public call to other alders for us to do some type of public collaboration on the town hall or some type of public benefit. I just think whatever we can do to show our community, you know, I don't want to give people a false sense of unity, but I do think it's good for folks to see their leaders collaborating and to see that at the end of the day, even when we don't agree on the method, a lot of us do have the same vision in mind. A lot of us do really want to be in a city that best works for everybody, and we do have the ability to put our issues, you know, to the side. So I just really want to thank you all for serving with me, for answering my calls, for answering my emails. And as a new alder, it goes beyond bills. Sometimes I've called you all. I think now I know a second is necessary and Robert's Rules of Orders and all these things, but you all have taken those calls. I could call you at 9 or 10 o'clock. You would answer the question. I can send you an email, you know, particularly I think Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Cone, because we share areas, or you guys used to be alders for areas that I cover now. You guys will even respond to constituent emails and be like, hey, Alicia, go send this to this director, or send person. And I know that those are not elements that folks get to see all the time. Some of you have even said, hey, I disagree with you, but I really want you to stand up and make your point, because I think that that needs to be part of the conversation. So I just want to make sure that I thank you all. And the one person who hadn't got a public thank that I will add, since he hasn't been named, is Mr. Bailey. I know that you're here from the mayor's office, but I know that you do your best to have conversations with us and work with us and talk to us. And I can imagine that your role is not an easy one, that your role is a difficult one. And obviously, I'm sure you've had difficult conversations with every single one of us. But I wanted to thank you publicly as well, and just really thank all of you, because I think our city is sometimes known for siloed and divisions and pettiness and individualisticalities. But what I would say from this year here is we actually are a city of collaboration, a city of discussion, a city of debate, a city of cohesion, a city of collectivism. I've really had my perspective changed, and honestly more positive than it was before. So just thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to serve with you, and especially the legislative assistants, the social chairs, the events we've had, the things you all have put together, your days of choosing themes. I'm sad I missed my cowboy day, but thank you all too, because you guys are quiet glues of the Board of Aldermen and help us keep a certain culture and a certain spirit as well, and are not even in the spotlights and don't even necessarily get the credit. But I think having you all has added to make us a greater board and greater public servants. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Seeing none, I will announce that immediately preceding this meeting, we will have a press briefing in the Kennedy Room, and all Alder people are welcome to attend and speak about the end of this session.
We got their papers.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President. All members were present this morning.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn sine die.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn sine die.
We need the second now. I mean, we could stay here in perpetuity. Okay. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 8th, that we adjourn sine die until Tuesday, April 16th. Sorry, we will adjourn sine die. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We did it. Did it, y'all. Did it.
Get that out.